as you're actually grounding yourself literally on the ground with the soil, with Mother Nature, but you're also taking your mind out of the equation because now you're focused on the somatic feeling of your feet touching every blade of grass. When we get our minds sort of off the bus and we come into our bodies and we just sit in a more contemplative meditation like that, that's a moving meditation. How best to introduce someone to meditation that isn't interested at all, yet could clearly benefit from the practice? Yeah, this is a really great question because everyone can benefit from meditation, and most people avoid it. And I can say for myself, many years ago, I was like, I would try to meditate because everyone said it was so important. And I really was on my spiritual awakening journey. And I just couldn't quiet my mind. So I'm going to give this example first and then I'll answer this specifically. But I couldn't quiet my mind. My mind was so active and so brilliant. And after the 15 minutes, I'd be like, oh man, I'm not going to be able to get that 15 minutes back. So what happened for me was, I fought meditation for a long time. I didn't feel like I was getting any benefits. And then the universe stepped in, source, whatever you want to call it, the energies that be, and put a camera in my hands. And I was in Hawaii and I started photographing flowers, orchids specifically. And I did this for like an hour. I had this great, back then it was a big Nikon camera, and I could zoom in and take really close up pictures. And I just became so mesmerized by the flowers. Now, what I realized later is it was the universe's way of helping me get into a meditative state, because then I realized that I was doing observational flower photography. I was observing nature. I was observing something outside of my own thoughts in a way that was quieting my mind. And eventually I started to get little messages. So I'd be looking at a flower and then a message would pop in. And I say pop in because I felt like it came out of nowhere. And it was always a very positive, high vibe thought. And I just felt like, yeah, the flower is just speaking to me. And so then I became a flower whisperer. Now, I share that story because a lot of times, many of us have to get introduced to meditation in a very different way. I look at surfers and I go, those guys in many ways are meditating. There's a rhythm that they are part of in the ocean. It's why they're drawn to it. It's why they're out there on a board. It's, it's also the community, the camaraderie. So I'm not saying it's all that, but there is like a connection that you need to make with a wave to know that it's time. You're using your instinct. And so you're quieting oftentimes. Yes, you're using your logical mind, but you're also quieting your logical mind to use more of that gut instinct. And of course your experience of what it's like to ride waves. But there's a meditation in there. Other people do it through other ways. So I'm saying this because oftentimes we want to share an app with someone, which is great too. But if they're not ready to sit in that quietness, they may have to be introduced in a different way. I always love to recommend the flowers, but it can be also just Mother Nature in general, that, hey, let's just take a very intentional walk. It can also be that you recommend to someone to go to a park, let's say it's summertime, take off your shoes and feel every single blade of grass. Because what you're doing then is you're actually grounding yourself literally on the ground with the soil, with Mother Nature, but you're also taking your mind out of the equation because now you're focused on the somatic feeling of your feet touching every blade of grass. So when we get our minds sort of, like off the bus and we come into our bodies and we just sit in a more contemplative meditation like that, that's a moving meditation. And that's helpful for a lot of people that have a very active mind, because moving the body distracts the mind. Thinking and feeling into the ground and the grass helps distract the mind. And it just brings this peace and it brings a sense of connection that is so important, and that what happens during meditation. Now, once someone's come across that and they're getting more into this movement meditation, or yes, of course, you can go right to an app, and you might have a favorite person or a favorite, a favorite way that you meditate, and offering that to them is great. Another thing I would say is, if they seem interested, offer to them, hey, why don't we do meditation at the same time? You don't have to be in the same room. Like, they could be, in another state, and you say 7 a.m., let's meditate. I know there was a time a couple of years ago where I just felt like, gosh, I'm just not I'm not as committed to my meditation practice as I want to be. I had joined my shaman's meditation at 7 a.m. and I went in with a group. And so I feel like if you have that opportunity to be part of a group, and it was online, it was in Zoom. So you might say, well, that seems kind of weird to be in electronics, but it was wonderful because we could see everybody. We'd come in, we wouldn't speak, and we'd go right into the meditative practice. And then after the practice, we would adjourn. And sometimes there was a little bit of talk time afterwards. But why I'm saying that is that sometimes just being in connection and community with others helps us hold that practice. And setting a specific time is also really good. And doing it first thing in the morning is also really good because we all know, like, our schedules, things come in, emails come, texts come, this happens. And then before we know it, it's 9 o'clock or whatever, and we haven't gotten it done. Or we don't literally have time to do it because we're off to work. So setting a time and having a routine is also helpful. And so to help someone else, I would ask them to just say, hey, what time works best for you? And I'll sit with you during that time. Maybe depends on how close you are to that person, but maybe you want to make that commitment. And maybe you want to bring your whole family in on this. Maybe this is, or it's a group of friends and you say, hey, at 7 a.m. or 6 a.m., I'm going to be on Zoom and I'm going to be meditating because that'll hold your feet to the fire in a good way. And you can offer to them, hey, you can come on with me. And whether you play someone else's meditation or you just sit in that meditation, I think you're going to find that it brings even a lot more to you, who is a more experienced meditator and sees the benefits and wants everyone else to experience it too. So I think that might be really fun for you actually to get a small group and really do this meditation practice together and quieting the mind. Hopefully that's helpful. And I'm happy to hear any thoughts that you might have in regards to that as well. The show here, I so appreciate each week that you tune in at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Each week, there's so many great questions that come through. And I know that whether it's yours or someone else's, it helps a lot of people. So please tune in again. And in the meantime, there are lots of resources on bethbell.me. There's the Awakening and Healing Handbook. There is the Psychedelics Resource Guide and the Herpes Handbook. All great resources for various reasons, whether you have a virus of the mind or you want to have your next breakthrough on your spiritual journey and you want plant medicines or other psychedelics to help you out, or if you're just wondering about some really great techniques to help you, tips and techniques to help you break through some of the patterns and programming that are holding you back from living your divine blueprint. All right. And if you haven't already done the State of the Heart assessment, you can also go to bethbell.me and get that and get your results. It's fun to see exactly where your heart is. Is it blocked? Is it broken? Is it healing? Or is it whole? And of course, there's also private sessions that you can book on bethbell.me. All right. Until next week, I'm wishing you much bliss and love on the journey. Namaste.